My name is Ogechi, the only surviving child of my parents. I babysat three of my younger siblings that died exactly at 3 months. Today, I'll be telling you my story and the story of how my family overcame the spirit of Ogbanje. I can vividly remember what happened the last time. Mama went to the Eke market to sell her wares, and I was left alone with our baby. I kept the baby entertained outside our small hut, hoping that he would sleep so that I could go out to play with my friends. Luckily, he slept, and I laid him inside his basket inside Mama's hut, and I ran outside to play. Soon after, I heard his cry from outside, and I came back inside and carried him on my shoulder. This time around, his cry was so uncontrollable, I couldn't even hold him still. Baby was struggling so much that he almost fell off my arm. Finally, I managed to put him back to sleep, and I rushed outside again to go join my peers to play. We were playing outside when Mama returned from the market. Upon seeing her, I ran and hugged her and carried her basket, searching for Ifafia, any snacks she would give me. Mama asked of baby, and I told her how I bravely managed the situation and put him back to sleep after he was struggling so much. Mama went into her hut, tried to raise the baby from the basket, but suddenly released him and started to scream. I was confused and fixated at a spot as neighbors started to pour into our compound. The child was dead. Our baby was buried shortly in a shallow grave at our backyard where the other two babies were buried. When the burial was over and the sympathizers had left, we were left alone to mourn and grieve. The repeated number of deaths pushed my grandparents into consultation. My grandfather Nnanyi summoned my father Dike, particularly to discuss the cause of the repeated deaths. Arriving at Nnanyi's compound that early morning, Papa found Nnanyi and Mama Nuhu sitting outside their huts, arms folded with deep frowns on their faces. On the ground beside Nnanyi was a keg of nkwocha and some kola nuts. "Nnanyi, good morning, sir. Why are your faces like this?" Papa inquired, as though he was oblivious of the prevailing circumstances. Papa grabbed a seat from the obi and sat with them. Nnanyi proceeded to break the kola nuts, after which he finally spoke. "Dike, I have called you this early morning for a very important reason. You must get interested in the culture and tradition of our family. Do not let the spirits scrape your mouth on the ground before you do the needful." Nnanyi, how would you say such a thing? I'm a reputable figure in church. How do you want people to perceive me? Dike, can't you see that whatever force is eating your children is above Western medicine? Nnanyi, my children died of an undiscovered illness. Nnanyi insisted that my papa would come with him to see our village doctor, Okofia. At the sound of Okofia, my father stood up. "Nnanyi, I have to go. I appreciate your concern, but I can never ever do such a thing. Light and darkness have nothing in common. I assure you that the next child will stay. Just watch out and see." My papa returned home and reported the incidents to Mama, expecting her support and affirmation, but Mama did not say even a word. Just as Papa predicted, shortly after, my Mama was pregnant once again. I was neither happy nor sad at first. All the villagers' eyes were on Mama. They watched Mama closely as her pregnancy progressed. I know what they are thinking. Papa made sure Mama was well taken care of. I had never experienced this level of care and enjoyment before. It was as if my papa was eagerly trying to prove a point to Nnanyi and Mama Nuhu. Papa would buy all sorts of fruits for Mama to eat. It was as if there was a fruit carnival in our house. My Mama, who usually started her antenatal visits towards the end of her pregnancy, started quite early this time around. Papa was battling a lot of things that I could not explain. Every night, I could hear his loud voice praying. But whenever I peep in their hut, I always see Mama sleeping and snoring while Papa is kneeling down beside her bed and praying. Mama kept glowing and shining while Papa was decreasing and emaciating by the day. The day Achebe, my brother, was born, Mama bled so much because of the fat baby. Achebe came out looking like a 4-month-old baby. From the very day Achebe, my brother, was born, it was as if hell broke loose in my house. Papa would make problem and shout over every slightest mistake in taking care of Achebe. There was constant quarrel and nagging. Papa treated Achebe like a precious egg that was so fragile to break. My papa would shout at Mama over every slightest thing. He would shout over Achebe's feeding, sleeping, clothing. In short, everything was just a problem. On the night to Achebe's 3rd month, my papa could not sleep. He kept watch over the baby like a watchman. I could tell from the uneasy expression on his face that he was so scared. Papa could hardly take his eyes off Achebe. Papa was so attentive to his soft snores. At midnight, a cold air crept in through the windows, swaying the curtains, and it gave Papa goosebumps. Papa felt such a strong presence in the room. Although he could not see anyone, the presence was so tangible. Like someone in a trance, Papa saw the being lift the spirit of Achebe from his body. Papa wanted to shout, but his entire body was stiff and paralyzed, and he couldn't move from the chair. The being carried Achebe's spirit and left through the window. Just then, Papa regained consciousness and the use of his hands. Papa jacked up from his chair and he lifted Achebe, but his body was empty, stiff, and his pupils were fixated. Papa fell back to his chair, feeling so helpless. Mama woke up at dawn screaming, and we were not even surprised. Just like that, all the joy and excitement in our home turned into darkness and wailing again. Sometimes I wish Mama and Papa would stop trying and just focus on me. But I want siblings and I know that Mama and Papa really want a male child. 6 months after the death of my brother Achebe, Papa came home one evening to meet my mother in her very depressed state. My mama was so embittered. No one deserved to pass through what she was passing through. She said no one sold to her in the market. She said people insulted her and called her a child eater. Some people even went as far as hiding the faces of their children whenever my mama passed by. Dike, I cannot continue like this. It's either you do something or I end my life. It was at this juncture that my papa decided to swallow his pride and take the Okofia option. Early the next morning, even before the cock crew, Papa went to see Nani for them to go and visit Okofia. Papa and Nani arrived at Okofia's compound and met some other people that came for consultation. Okofia's compound looked nothing like what Papa imagined in his mind. When it was Papa's turn to see Okofia, Nani greeted Okofia, and before they could take a seat, Okofia looked my papa straight in the eye and told him that Mama was pregnant and that if only Papa would stick to his instruction, that the child would be the last that would die in our family. My papa was shocked. How did Okofia know that Mama was pregnant? It was barely a few weeks and Papa just found out the previous night. Okofia asked Papa to prepare his mind for the last death. Mama's 9 months period of pregnancy swept by so fast like a breeze across the mountain. Our baby, Ikenna, was here. I noticed that my papa did not pay so much attention to this child like he did during the time of Achebe. All the things that reached us during Achebe's time were no longer a cause of trouble this time around. On the night to Ikenna's 3rd month, Papa remained awake as instructed by Okofia. At exactly midnight, death struck. Our little baby was gone. Papa woke Mama up and she was screaming already. Woman, hold yourself together. Are you not tired of burying your children? Put yourself together because this will be the last time you would ever cry over a dead baby. As Papa consoled my Mama, we could hear Okofia's voice and the jingling of his bell as he arrived at our compound like a man on an appointment. Okofia stood at the center of our compound and asked my papa to collect the baby from my mama. Okofia made some incantation and asked my papa to drop the dead baby on the bare floor. This was a hard instruction, but papa obeyed, and like a spirit suddenly descended on him, his face frowned in rage. Okofia brought out a knife from his bag and handed it over to papa and asked him to cut the child. Papa's hand began to tremble like an old man with Parkinson's disease. Papa wondered how he could harm his precious little child, but at the thought of what he had gone through because of the countless deaths of his children, he became furious. Papa used the knife to stab the baby recklessly all over his body, even his face. "Now speak," said Okofia. "It can hear you loud and clear." My papa looked up with bloodshot eyes, as if in a deep confrontation with an enemy. "You foul spirit of Ogbanje, hear me and hear me clearly. From this night onward, do not ever cross this compound again. As you return this night, tell them what you saw. Tell them that I, DK, the mighty warrior, warn that if you ever return here again, I will slice your body in pieces, pound you to pulp, and feed your flesh and blood to hungry vultures." Okofia was impressed. He gave Papa some leaves to cover the baby and burned him immediately. Papa rushed inside his hut and returned with a cup of kerosene and matches. He poured it over the baby and lighted the body, and fire rose up to the heavens. "Look, over there, they are running away," Okofia pointed out. "Can't you see them?" I know my papa did not see anything, but he nodded in affirmation to Okofia's exclamations. That night was such a cold and long one. My family grieved, but this time we grieved in silence and in hope that the future child would stay and not leave us like the rest. Precisely 1 year later, my mama birthed another son. As Papa rushed in to carry the son, he was flabbergasted. Papa was terrified at the sight of the baby. Papa looked closely, and he could clearly recognize the scars that he gave to our last dead baby Ikenna, the last Ogbanje child. The baby had so much injury scars, like someone that narrowly escaped a fatal accident. My papa looked at our new baby with so much pity in his eyes, and he named him Ozemena, meaning that this should never happen or repeat itself again. It's been 20 years now, and Ozemena is still with us, hale and hearty. Currently, I live in the big city with my brother Ozemena, while our parents still live in the village happily. Last month, my boyfriend proposed to me, and we were mandated by the church to undergo compulsory medical checkup. I was gobsmacked when the results were out, and the doctor said that I couldn't marry my fiancé because our genotype was not compatible. It was at this junction that my mind began to race back. Could it be that only I and Ozemena, my brother, were the only lucky ones? As these questions spun through my head, I was super grateful that I was enlightened enough not to pass through what my mother passed through due to ignorance. At the end of the day, I'm super grateful for enlightenment. However, I still have a lot of questions in my mind. How come the children usually died at exactly the same time? Secondly, why was Ozemena, my brother, born with exactly the same scars I was given to my brother Ikefuna at death? As all these questions go through my mind, one thing is for sure: I will never ever bury any of my children early. All my children will live to their old ripe age, because I am sure of the sacrifice that my Lord Jesus Christ has done on the cross of Calvary for me, and on that alone I stand, and I believe that no such thing shall ever repeat itself. If you have watched this time, thank you so much. I am very grateful, and I hope you smash the subscribe button, like our videos, and support us. Thank you.